What's up, everybody? Did you know there are 54 countries in Africa? Well, now you know. Let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Rays Rewind with El Bushman and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome back in, everybody, to the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I am the great El Bushman. Joining me as usual is Drew. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind. Hit the subscribe and notification bell when new episodes drop. We still have that Rays giveaway going on. So if you guys want that dual auto card with Evan Longoria and Junior Caminero, hit the subscribe button. Get us to 500 by St. Patrick's Day. So, yeah. We got a good show for you guys today. I'm going to bring him in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now is a guy who's been around the Tampa Bay Rays for a very long time, longer than some of the prospects have been alive. You've seen his work covering the Rays for years, breaking down the roster, the prospects, and everything happening behind the scenes with this organization. He's one of the most plugged-in voices when it comes to Rays baseball. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Steve Carney. What's up, man?
Gentlemen, thank you so much. And I've not been around as long as some of the prospects have been alive, but some of them I have, yes.
Some of them, yeah. There you go. Well, thanks for jumping on the show with us, Steve. You've been around the Rays for a pretty long time with the organization.
Coming up on 20 years. That's pretty scary.
That is longer than some of the prospects have been alive, I think. So
yeah, I think so. This beard wasn't always gray covering the Rays.
I think with the stuff that we've gone through with the Rays, it is gray. I mean, my hair's gray, my beard is gray, so I think we're all going gray here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So coming into this season, what's been, the biggest storyline, from camp that fans might not fully realize yet coming into 2026?
I think the biggest storyline for at least for this team is how can they score enough runs to be successful this year? I really do think that, the rotation, even without Shane Baz and after trading Taj Bradley at the deadline last year, I think the rotation is going to be okay, especially if Shane McClanahan can actually pitch this year. I think that the bullpen, even if Edwin Uceda's cranky elbow or shoulder is, not 100%. I think with Jackson, with Clevenger, and with what they have, I think they have enough in the bullpen in order to get by. The question for me is, how is this team going to score any runs? I look at this, you go back a couple of years. In 23, when this team won 99 games, they scored 860 runs. Last year, they scored 714 runs. So they need to find a way to get to that 775 to 825 runs in order to be somewhat successful and somewhat competitive. I think if they have trouble scoring runs, especially early, I think this team is going to be in trouble. And not having someone like Brandon Lau to help coagulate and coalesce the middle of the batting order, I think is going to be a lot more detrimental to the team than some fans may let on.
Do you think that they, because Junior Caminero, he can't hit a home run every time, unfortunately.
I know.
Jonathan Aranda is kind of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not unproven by any means. I think he showed last year he's a legitimate hitter. However, you could make the argument, all right, he did it last year and he got hurt in Yankee Stadium, kind of a weird accident, not like that's not going to happen necessarily every season, right? So, but it shortened his season. I am still a little concerned. I want to see him do it again in 26. But do you think that with how the lineup would be constructed, do you see them maybe putting Aranda behind Junior to maybe try to protect Junior a little bit, give him a little bit more looks at the plate? Or do you think that, are you seeing maybe like a Yandy, Aranda, Junior top three? Because obviously those are their three big guys. I'm just curious how maybe you see them stacking the lineup, especially in that top half, to try to get the most from from their
Yeah.
best hitters.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, Drew. And for me, I want to have Chandler at the top of the order. So,
Mhm.
and really, I would like to see Chandler lead off against both righties and lefties this year. Really solidify that top of the order, give him the confidence. I think if Kevin Cash and Eric Neander say, look, it doesn't matter that what the numbers say, we want to put you in that number one spot this year, and then go with, say, either Jan, and knowing how Cash likes to operate, he
Right.
loves to go left, right, left, right. So it would not surprise me if you were to see um a Yandy followed by an Aranda followed by a Caminero. I don't know if you would see them put Yandy with Caminero, righty righty. I think you would put Aranda in between them, and I think that actually helps both of them. So you have you have a guy like Aranda helping Yandy keep get the best pitch to hit, and also having Caminero behind Aranda helps Jonathan get a good pitch to hit as well. I think the question then becomes, what do you put behind Caminero in the 5 spot? And that could be the big question when it comes to this lineup, because after Caminero, if you look at this at the way that this starting lineup is constructed, it's not a whole lot of power behind Caminero, and
Right.
you really
No.
do. I mean, could you find power from Cedric Mullins? This is a guy that's hit 20 homers before. So, but I don't want him in the 5 spot. So, for me, Mullins should be in that, down in the 8 and 9 area, looking to turn the lineup over for Simpson. So, the catcher, the shortstop, what are we going to get out of right field this year? There's no Josh Lowe anymore that you would put in that. That would be the guy that I would want in that number 5 spot. So I think that's where the real question lies when it comes to the hitting, and especially in lineup construction, is who do you put behind Caminero to try and keep the snowball rolling?
Yeah, you mentioned a shortstop, and we know Taylor Walls has a stranglehold on the shortstop position for the rest of time. And so, and then Ben Williamson obviously brought in as the bench utility guy,
Mhm.
good glove, light bat, but maybe he's young enough. You don't know what that might turn into. Maybe he gets a little improvement there with the power or the batting. But Carson Williams is in a spring training where I felt like the Rays really didn't have a ton of storylines. Like, there's not these key position battles. It's not like you got a player like Junior coming in, will he make the team? Carson Williams was a top prospect, has fallen off a little bit, rough year last year generally, and didn't really show a whole lot during his major league time. So I think with Ben Williamson coming in, people have assumed, right, I think rightly so, he's starting in AAA, Carson Williams. But to his credit, I mean, you look at the numbers, he hasn't hit a home run yet, so you're not going to see the highlights on social media quite as much. But I mean, his numbers so far, and again, it's spring training, it's 21 plate appearances. I get it, small sample. But the K percentage is way down right now. It's only 19%, which we know with Carson, all we hear is Gold Glove shortstop, power, speed, strikes out way too much. I feel like I'm seeing lower strikeouts. He's making good contact. His BABIP's pretty high at 438. That's not sustainable. But he's hitting well, and the spray chart is a lot more to opposite field. So you wonder if that's been a focus for him. Like, I'm liking what I'm seeing with Carson. Do you think so? Kind of a twofold question. Is there, injuries aside, because that can change things.
Mhm.
If he continues to play well and continues this for the next few weeks, do you think what would you put the percentage chance at him making the roster? And then second, if, doesn't make the roster initially, how soon do you think we see Carson, assuming, like I said, no injuries, just based on performance?
Yeah, it's a good question, because Carson does have all the talent in the world to play shortstop at the major league level. I think we've all seen that through his time in development, what he did whether it was in Bowling Green, whether it was in Montgomery, whether it was in Durham, after he came back from the injury. I think we all believe that Carson Williams can play shortstop at this level. And you're right. The big knock on him is that he doesn't really understand what a major league strike zone is. And so he has found himself doing a lot of chasing over the years. And so, and it really showed in his cup of coffee at the big league level last year. I was like, okay, does he have the power? Absolutely. I saw him homer at Steinbrenner Field last year, and was like, oh my goodness, the ball, when he does make when he makes solid contact, it jumps off his bat. The problem is that he tends to swing down out of the zone. He does not recognize the major league breaking ball pitch yet. And that's something that really does come with time and at bats at the big league level. I mean, everybody goes through that stretch, especially when they first come up. Not everybody is Tony Gwynn. Not everybody is, Wade Boggs. I think that, when it comes to Carson Williams, I think he is going to be the answer at shortstop at some point, because obviously, while we all love Taylor Wall's defensive capabilities, I thought it was hilarious. You guys had Brett Phillips on, and I just remember Philly during spring training in 21 going up to Kevin Cash with the earplug, with the earbud in, and going, "Hey Cashy, did you know that you and Taylor Walls went to the same school?" And Cash around and went, "Why do you think he's playing right now?" I think we all understand Taylor Wall's limits and where he does not excel at the big league level. And unfortunately for Taylor, it is at providing a lot of offense at the plate. And that's where I think Carson can really excel. And if he can figure out what a major league strike is and what a major league strike isn't, I think he's going to be in good shape.
Steve, looking at the new guys that we brought in through via the trades and free agency too as well, is there one that's kind of the Rays looking at, hey, maybe we might have to rethink things? Now, I know Jacob Milton's kind of making a case to be on the opening day roster, but is there any other players that kind of caught Cash's eye and going, okay, maybe we have to reevaluate some positions coming into opening day? Is there a guy that stands out right now that's been doing that right now during spring?
I don't think so. I think actually the opposite has happened because of the injuries, and Cedric Mullins being held back and Gavin Lux dealing with stuff. I think Kevin Cash is going, all right, what do we do if these guys take longer than expected to be ready for, and I think they both will be. I don't think that's much of an issue, but I think that's a conversation that had to be had, that I think that Cash and his coaching staff in the front office was hoping not to have here in Port Charlotte this year. I look at, with Williamson, I think you're right. A guy that can play short, can play second, can play third. The versatility is what will keep him on the big league roster, and Melton, I've actually been rather impressed with Melton. We know that, the scouting report on him was he hit the ball hard, but he hit the ball on the ground a lot. And so they look at him as almost like another Yandy Diaz to project where, if you can get him to, get his launch angle a little higher, I think you're going to find that he's going to be a lot more successful, like Yandy has been over the years. So I actually think it's the other way around. I think that they've had to have the conversation of, okay, what do we do if this guy's not going to be ready? And I think that's a conversation that the front office was hoping not to have.
Gotcha. And speaking of guys that is on his way to possibly being ready for the regular season, is Shane McClanahan in that spot in the rotation. How confident are you with him going, inching closer and closer to opening day? I know he had kind of a rough start the other day in spring. Do you think he's going to be back to top form, or is he going to last a full season? What's your take on Shane McClanahan going into 2026?
The only way we'll know if Shane McClanahan can last a full season is if he lasts a full season, unfortunately. Right. Well, I have said for years, and I remember, going back to the days of Matt Moore and Alex Cobb, the the telling factor of whether a pitcher is going to have an elbow injury is if the pitcher has had an elbow injury before. And so coming back from what we've seen, and I look at McClanahan's struggles in returning, much like Brent Honeywell when he was with the Rays. I was there when he tore his ulnar collateral ligament on the backfields in Port Charlotte, and he let out the biggest F-bomb I have ever heard in my entire life on the next pitch when he realized, oh God, my elbow is shredded, and walked off the field. And then all the issues that he had coming back. He had the nerve problem. He also broke his elbow. So he missed almost 3 years of development time before finally getting to the big leagues, and having any sort of big league career after what Honeywell went through, I think is an accomplishment to him and the hard work that he put in. But to get back to McClanahan, if there's anybody that I think can come back and be at top form, it's Shane McClanahan. Having seen the work ethic and the attitude that he has toward his craft, you don't see guys like him fail because they don't put in the work. If he fails, it's going to be of something that's not his control. And so I think that he does get back. I think he does get back to the form that we saw him pre-elbow injury. The question is, how long does the elbow hold out?
Where do you see him in the rotation? Because now that we have Madsen and Martinez in the rotation, now that kind of gives a little bit of eases the pressure off him a little bit to be high up in the rotation. Would you drop him lower than because look, I look at it now where you can have Raz at 1, Pep at 2, and maybe McClanahan at 3. But now with Martinez and Mats, you can maybe drop Shane a little bit lower to have more rest days. Would you have him lower in the rotation, or would you keep him up at the top?
I would keep him near the bottom. I don't know if you have him at 3 or have him at 4. Having him be the transition, going between, say, a Pepio and a Mats, or a Pepio and a Martinez, going between a couple of righties would be perfect, because it really does kind of make your rotation look different. And so I just remember a couple of years ago when the Rays had Blake, and it was 4 righties after that. And so it was like, you probably, I mean, I know that Blake Snell is a top of the rotation guy, and you want to have him at the top of the rotation. But when you only have one opportunity to go right, left, right, I think that's not ideal for how the Rays construct their roster.
Yeah. I think too, it feels like, just piggybacking off this question, it feels like the Rays are concerned about schedule more so than anything with Shane as far as rotation. So I think they've said they want him pitching in Milwaukee to start that second series because of the weather.
Yeah,
they're playing indoors, and then he's.
You don't want to start at Wrigley. It's going to be Wrigley in the beginning of April. It's going to be cold. It's going to be nasty. At least playing at the former Miller Park, American Family Field. They have the dome. They'll probably have it closed for the beginning of the year, so you'll have an opportunity to play in a controlled environment when it comes to temperature. I think that, yes, you want him in the 4 or a 5 at least to start. And then maybe on the first off day, you kind of swap it around. You move him up a little bit, maybe move him into the 3 spot at that point. But really, you want him pitching in Milwaukee and not at Wrigley Field.
Yeah. I think interesting for me, the Rays coming into this year, and I could be wrong on this. I feel like when they bring in, it's always a lot made about them bringing in veterans. I go back to Charlie Morton in 2019. Even Mike Zunino coming over as a catcher. It feels like they'll bring in a veteran or 2 maybe, and it's all about helping the young guys. And this year, you look at it, and whether it's via trade or free agency, they've got 5 veterans that are going to be starting that weren't on this team last year. You got Cedric Mullins, Jake Fraley, Gavin Lux, and then Matz and Martinez in the rotation. So I like that mix. I feel like it's a little different than what we've seen previously. I feel like we usually see the Rays say we're going to let it ride with some of these younger guys and just hope, hey, we know they can do it. We just want to have them go out and do it, and this year they've got more of that veteran leadership, so to speak, or veteran presence in the clubhouse. Of those 5, who do you see having the biggest impact? And I know pitchers obviously once every 5th day, but who do you think is going to have the biggest impact on the team in 26? I tend to believe it's going to be Cedric Mullins, just because center field was I felt like it was such a black hole for the team last year, and he's just been so steady out there his whole career. But what are you kind of expecting from this group, and who do you think might, if you had to pick somebody, and we're going to make you pick, who has the most impact you think on the team this year?
Twist my arm, Drew.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't get away from it. You gotta I want to make you pick one.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you that it is most likely Mullins. And I would say that center field has been a black hole since maybe 22.
Yeah.
Once Kevin Kiermaier left, because Jose Siri, you never knew what you were going to get from him. Jose could have these stretches where, he could beat teams single-handedly, and then there were just times where he looked completely lost. And when he was struggling at the plate, you saw it affect his defense. And so I think, and then of course we know what happened last year.
Yeah.
It was like,
no, what happened
last year? Oh my God, Chandler Simpson. I will tell you this, when they put Chandler Simpson out in center field, I was like, oh my God, we're in trouble. I really was, because I was like, he's not taking the right routes. I always used to joke around with people that for years, the first commandment of playing the Rays was thou shalt not run on the guy wearing number 39, because you did not take an extra base on the Rays outfielders, because Kevin Kiermaier was out there to throw you out. And then the second commandment was thou shalt not run on number 35 either, because when Philly was out there, it was not much of a drop off. But I really do think that more so for how he's going to be able to help the young outfielders to his left and to his right. He's had plenty of time playing at Tropicana Field as an opponent. He really knows how to make sure that the outfielders around him are able to perform at their best level, and gives them the best opportunity to be successful. So yeah, I really do think it's going to be Cedric Mullins, especially because we expect him to be the everyday guy out there in the middle of the field.
Steve, as we get closer to opening day, and I know Cash made some comments the other day about, hey, we're not playing good defense well, we're not playing good baseball all around. And obviously, we had a few of those guys that are away for the WBC. As we get closer to opening day, is there anything that concerns you at all with this Rays team? This team, it seems like it's a different feel to it, because look, we have new ownership. We're coming back to the Trop. Is there anything that could concern you going into opening day with this team at all, or is it just like, hey, they're doing what they're doing? Let's just see how they do opening day.
I think that if you're looking at anything of concern, the big thing for me is how will these guys handle being back on the turf at Tropicana Field this year? You guys have been, to the Trop, and going on FanFest. I always thought was a good, what showed fans how difficult it is to be on that turf. I can tell you, working 8 hours on that turf for the radio station for so many years, my feet hurt, and I only stood on it. I can only imagine having to run on it, having to fall on it, crashing into things on it. My whole, from my hips to the bottoms of my feet, every year after FanFest, I was like, God, how do they do it? Because
I would not want to slide on that turf at all in the outfield. No.
Funny story. I'll tell you a very quick story about sliding on the turf, because I asked now Phillies vice president and general manager Sam Fold about this back in 2011. Fold comes up. He makes that amazing diving catch in Chicago, and their warning track is like rocks. it's like gravel. And then was making sliding catches on the Trop turf as well. And I asked him which was worse, and he said to me they're different because when you slide in Chicago on the gravel out there, it hurts to begin with. And when you're sliding on the Trop, it doesn't hurt at the beginning, but it burns from the inside out. It's like if you've ever
getting a rug burn.
Yeah, it's like taking a dive on a basketball court or a volleyball court where you get those like floor burns that it's basically the same sort of thing. It's really not pleasant, and it's more unpleasant longer at the Trop is what he told me, as opposed to Chicago. So I think really it is going to be about the turf at Tropicana Field. I think guys, especially guys that have never played at the Trop before, are going to be in for a surprise for how uncomfortable it can be. Kevin Kiermaier used to tell me every year about how much he had to take care of his body more because of dealing with the turf for 81 games.
Yeah. This guy won't have to be on the turf quite as much. He'll be in the infield dirt. But Junior Caminero, do the Rays, I mean, I had big expectations for him even going into last year.
Mm-hmm.
But for a team that has kind of had to weather through the Wander Franco situation that will never be resolved, apparently.
You always have to bring it up each show.
It's the case that never ends.
No,
it goes on and on, my
friend.
You
can't I know. Talk about it. Like it just is what it is. But having weathered
people tried it thinking, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue trying it forever just because.
Yeah, I mean, I've laid in bed at night not being able to sleep, being like, man, could you?
Drew's mad because he can't replace the Wander jersey that he has.
Oh yeah,
so he's mad.
Or how about the hat giveaway on the day that all that?
Steve, I have the bat from the bat giveaway still.
Yeah. I have the hat sitting over here on my shelf still.
Yeah. This jersey, not to get off topic,
turned around, of course.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh no.
We gotta censor that out in post.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna have to pixelate that.
Yeah, we gotta pixelate that.
It's the only Rays jersey I've ever bought. I got it in the beginning of 22, and I love those black Devil Rays jerseys. I wish they would wear them on the field, but yeah, I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I was so pumped.
I mean, you just got a new deal, a 10-year deal. You're thinking this is the guy.
My favorite jersey. Now it was sitting in my closet for like 2 years, and then kind of redid some things in here. And I was like, well, at least I could show off the Devil Rays logo. And
just with all like superstars in Tampa, you don't want to get invested in their jersey because they'll eventually leave. I.e. Mike Evans.
I don't want to get a jersey without a player on it. I don't know. It's just kind of how I am. But anyway, so having weathered through that, I mean, and that he was kind of, we've said this before, he was kind of like the sun the team was orbiting around. They were built, everything was built around him. And having to go through that, he's no longer on the team. Or no longer, whatever that's going on with that. He's not around. But Junior Caminero, like, is it possible that they have another superstar on this team somehow within the span of just, a year or two being removed from the Wander Franco situation? I mean, I feel like, and I think part of it too is all the off the field stuff that we've seen from Junior. Like, you weren't getting any of that from Wander, from what we could tell, and then obviously the clubhouse issues that came out on top of everything else. But like just the team aspect, him going, Junior going to the Dominican Academy graduation ceremony, what we've seen with him learning English, wanting that clubhouse leader role to fall on him as a 22-year-old, and just doing all the things we've seen with the WBC and his approach to the Dominican, and really kind of, I don't want to say taking over that team, but he is.
I think Pujols gave him like the managerial duties now. I think Pujols said, "Hey, it's your manager."
I mean, but you're talking about a roster with Tatis, Soto, Guerrero Jr. I mean, established big league stars that have much more name recognition, and they're looking at Junior. I mean, they're, nothing but great things to say about what he's doing both on and off the field. Is it possible the Rays have somehow got themselves another superstar. And do you think that he takes that next step even more this year? I know going back to the Trop, people are concerned about a drop off with homers, hitting another 45 home run season. I don't even think Aaron Judge has done that 2 years in a row. So, like he doesn't have to hit 45 home runs to have a successful year. So I think the concerns are overblown. But I mean, I just think that he could be a top 10 player, potentially, position player by the end of this season at this rate. What do you think? What have you seen from him just being around the team? And then, what are your expectations for this season?
He's so much fun to be around.
Yeah.
Like I have found myself, over the last couple of years, there are certain guys that you want to make sure that you go over to and see how they're feeling every day. And he's one of them. I have found, over the years, I've found the guys that I'm like, okay, that's a guy that I know that I can go to and have a good day, in coverage. If I know that I will say that, normally when I go, especially in spring training, I have found the guys that I know I can get the lay of the clubhouse from and not have to go around for years. I shouldn't say for years, for at least a couple of years though. When I first started out, I would walk into the clubhouse in Port Charlotte, and the two guys that I would see right at the front of the clubhouse were Stephen Vogt and Chris Jimenez. And if you don't know, if you've never, obviously we all know, how colorful of a character Stephen Vogt can be. But Chris Jimenez is right up there as one of the most incredible guys when it comes to a clubhouse, because I could get the, who wasn't feeling good, who was, who had a bad breakfast, who was mad at his pitching session, who didn't hit BP well yesterday. I could get it all from talking to those two guys. And for a couple of years at least, they were my barometer for how good or how bad a clubhouse could be. And thankfully when they were around, the clubhouse was always good. But Junior Caminero is that type of guy where you go over and you see how he's doing, because if he's doing well, the clubhouse is doing well. And if he's maybe a little grumpy, which can happen, sometimes you're like, okay, maybe I want to back off today. So but really, you've seen what he's done at the WBC. You saw what he did in winter ball a couple of years ago. I agree with you, Drew. I think that this might be the year that more than just Rays fans realize, oh my God, this guy is super special. And having Caminero is another example of the Rays taking a mistake and making it right. Because if you remember, everybody talks about him. You can't go on social media without hearing, they took Tim Beckham instead of Buster Posey in 2008. They're so stupid. They should have drafted Buster Posey. Well, they weren't going to give Buster Posey what he wanted, taking him 1 overall, because he wanted a major league deal. Pedro Alvarez, who got drafted right behind him, got a major league deal from the Pirates. So he wanted a major league deal, so his clock would have started automatically, and he still had the opportunity to go back to college. So they were like, and it's not like the Rays passed him at 1 and Pittsburgh took him at 2. His agents basically told the first 4 teams in that draft, the Rays, the Pirates, the Royals, and the Orioles, don't draft him. He's not going to sign. And so they got all the way down to the Giants at 5. But taking Beckham, yes, okay, Tim Beckham being Tim Beckham, but they traded him for Tobias Myers, and then they traded Tobias Myers for Junior Caminero, and that's how you get Junior Caminero. So taking a mistake, making it right.
It's like a circle. It goes around and around. It's like a circle. The completion of the circle.
And I think the other thing,
I'm the wheel.
Yeah, it will never stop.
I hope if he gets hit by a pitch at the Trop, he gets pumped up like he did at WBC like this year. If he gets pumped up like that, the Trop getting hit by a pitch, I'm like, okay, Yeah, we got this.
Especially early when you know the Trop is going to be full.
Yeah.
Full of Rays
We-
fans. That'd be fun.
We were talking about we were going through the schedule last episode, maybe 2 episodes
Yeah, it was our last
ago.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were trying to figure out when we thought the Trop would have that
Drop
first
off.
like, oh, yeah, it's new ownership but they're playing like the Athletics on a Tuesday night, and it's more empty than not, and we gave it about maybe into May, I think was the drop off. So
Yeah, I think that I think Cincinnati during the week, even with Ellie De La Cruz is not a group that you would be uh really excited to see.
yeah,
So that's probably like Cubs, yes, Yankees, those 6 games are going
Yeah.
to be absolutely packed.
yeah,
Especially having Yankees on the weekend. But yeah, I think Cincinnati, April 20th, 21st, 22nd.
yeah.
I think that might be the first time, and then of course Minnesota coming back with Derek Shelton for that weekend. I think that might be the first time that you see
Like,
see
oh
the-
yeah, that's right.
There'll be a little bit of a There's
You
$10
know-
tickets. There'll be people there.
Yeah,
$10
yeah.
tickets.
Well, then if it's the team's playing well and they're able to
Look, I think we've
get through those
exercised all the
series with,
demons
like,
from the past regime. And now
crowds.
we've got a new regime. People want to go to the Trop now.
right on the opposite, like, yeah, if people show up through those series, you're like, okay, well, maybe it
Yes.
was like maybe there is something here.
Yeah, I think that seeing how Ken Babby reacts,
Yeah,
or maybe not even reacts, maybe how he proacts. How
Right.
proactive will this new ownership group be? Because as much as I never had a problem with Stuart Sternberg. I could call Stuart Sternberg and he would take my call and answer my questions. That was not a problem. I like the front office. I think that a lot of animosity had been built up because of everything that had gone on between the ownership group and the city of St. Petersburg because of the use agreement. And that I think comes from both sides. I think, you go from Bill Foster holding up, you have a lease, you can't look anywhere, to, the Rays, I
Sister
the
city.
whole Ebor thing was mismanaged 8 ways to Sunday on both sides.
Mhm.
I think that the Rays waited 12 months too long to announce anything because they did not give themselves any chance to try and figure out how to get it paid. And I think that and then I think that the Rays and the politicians didn't help themselves because I'm not even going to get into the politics of it. But
that's another conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation because that conversation is still going on. I don't know about you guys. I really like the idea of this ballpark being at the
Mhm.
Hillsborough College site. I still have plenty of questions of how this thing is going to get paid, and I know that there are people that are like, oh, well, the Rays say that they're going to do 50% in the overruns. That's great. Where's that other 50% coming from? Because, the Hillsborough County has already said that the community investment tax is going to go to the Buccaneers and Raymond James Stadium. They've already just given $250 million to the Lightning for revamping Benchmark International Arena. Okay, so now you've got to find more money to provide for infrastructure and the 50% that you want to give to the Rays. And so I think, where's that going to come from? And I have not gotten a good answer yet from any politician. Every politician that's given me an answer has led me to more questions.
Yeah. We talked last episode, we've got nothing but good things to say about the new ownership group. And we think Kim Babby is a great voice
he's
for
awesome.
the ownership group. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome. I mean, and what a great person to have out in the media, out in the public,
Mhm.
being the face for, really the ownership group and the just the team in
Yeah.
general, on the non-baseball side. But very much still in a honeymoon period. I am curious, like, obviously I'm not wanting the team to perform poorly. I want them to come out and exceed expectations. It will be interesting to see, if crowds dip down and we have, there's similar issues with the crowds. The team isn't maybe playing well, and things aren't going well on the field. It'll be interesting to see how, that whole relationship between the fans and Kim Babby, and how that evolves over the course of the season. Hopefully, it's all sunshine and roses, and we don't have to worry about any of the negative stuff because things just keep, coming up aces.
They
for
win
the Rays, and the Rays
13 in a
ownership
row
group.
to start the year. I think we're going to be in good shape.
Yeah. They can cover up a lot of that. I did want to actually back up. This will be my final question. I think Evan's got one more too, but real quick, back with Junior. I want to just touch on this. I think his defense too, it doesn't get talked about.
Oh my goodness.
You were seeing him get pulled every time they had a lead, small lead, like early last year. And I felt like you just kind of saw him take it upon himself. I mean, just from what we can see as fans, I mean, we're not there 24/7, behind the scenes, but you saw improvement on the field just last year. And then we've already seen in the week plus of spring training ball, he's made several defensive plays, and
Yep.
I just think that, again, just a testament to like his character, his willingness to keep improving and to be that guy. And it would be easy for him, I think, just to be the guy like, oh, I'll go out and hit 40 plus homers a year. Yeah, I'm probably going to play first base and eventually, and just kind of deal with that and just, accept that. And I think he's just gone out and said, I don't want to come off the field ever, and has made himself that much better on defense, which I think goes to show his value to the Rays. So that brings me to my question. Do you think that the Rays get an extension done with Caminero based on, just vibes, what you're hearing, whether, tangible things, just your intuition? Do you think they get an extension done? Because I think the time's ticking. I think they got to do it sooner than later. And then if you're signing them to an extension, what does that look like? And what kind of deal are you giving Junior if you're Eric Neander, and you want to lock him up long term? What would General Manager Steve Carney do?
Well, General Manager Steve Carney definitely knows that the longer you wait, the more this is going to cost you.
Yeah.
Because every year that goes by that they don't have this set up, that's either one fewer year of free agency that you can buy out from him, or more money that you're going to have to pay in order to buy out the same number of years of free agency. I would love to see this deal get done. I know that the ownership group has talked about, we really can't do something like this while we have the specter of the stadium over our heads. And so, and the other thing to think of is, of course, involving that jersey behind you, Drew.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, you may still end up on the hook for that contract.
Right.
And you may have to eat the remainder of that $180 million crap burger. So, I really do think that, there's still so many moving parts that I think that the ownership group is so concerned about when it comes to, how are we going to be able to dole out this money? Because, this isn't like, unfortunately, with the last ownership group where Stuart Sternberg basically had all the control. He owned, I think it was, if it wasn't 100%, it was close to 100%. The ownership group was not able to fully buy out Stu Sternberg. Stu still has 10% control, 10% share of this team. So I think that with everything that's going on, the stadium, Wander Franco, and also the specter of a lockout possibly coming next year.
Yeah.
And, the whole television landscape and the changes there. I mean, you think about it, this team is really, they're not going to have the same television revenue this year that they did last year because of Main Street Sports Group going under. And, we still don't know where they're going to have games. Here we are, it's March 11th. We don't know what channel opening day is going to be on. Is it going to be on a cable channel that's that's given to the Rays, basically the remnants of what was FanDuel Sports Network Sun, and where they kind of like the Marlins have in South Florida, where it only plays Marlins games and then goes off the air afterwards. Do they do that? Do they make a deal with an over-the-air broadcast station? Channel 44 is the one that I've been touting for a while. They had 15 games aired on 44 last year. Channel 44 had signage at Steinbrenner Field last year, and they're CBS owned and operated, but they're not the CBS affiliate in town, so you're not losing the CBS. You're not preempting CBS network programming in order to use it. So I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're looking to make sure that your product is viewed by as many people as possible. The big question for that is, how far south, will Comcast carry Channel 44 if the Rays go to Channel 44, whereas Comcast will carry whatever Rays cable channel is out there. So the folks south of the Bay Area may have a question with that, but really those are the things that are hanging over the ownership group's head before they can say to Eric Neander, all right, now you can really start pushing for a long-term extension for Junior Caminero. I would love to see it, and hopefully it happens.
Yeah, we hope so too in the long run. So, well, Steve, thanks for joining us for an episode of Rays Rewind. I'm going to get you out of here on this last question. Give us a bold take. Give us a hot take going into 2026 with the Rays.
I wish I could say that my hot take was going to be that this team was going to win 90 games and make the playoffs, but that's not going to happen. So I'm going to go individually. I've got two individual hot takes.
All right.
I think that here my first hot take is that Chandler Simpson will out stolen base Ellie De La Cruz this year.
Ooh.
So I think Simpson leads the American League in stolen bases. I think he ends up with more than like 75 or 80.
It's good.
I really do think
that would be the team record too, right?
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I think the record's in the 60s. I don't think Carl Crawford got into the 70s.
Yeah, 60 in 2009.
Yeah, so I think he ends up with like 75 stolen bases this year, and I think Cedric Mullins is a 2020 guy and gets his career going and is able to get a multi-year deal in 27 from somebody else, but gets going back in the right direction thanks to the Tampa Bay Rays.
All right, Steve Carney, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the show for another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast. Make sure to go to our YouTube page, everybody. The Sick Podcast Rays Rewind. Make sure our giveaway is going on right now until St. Patrick's Day. 500 subs, you get that dual auto with the Evan Longoria and Junior Caminero card. It will be yours. Make sure to check us out again when our new episodes drop, which will be next week at some point. But once again, for myself, Drew, and Steve, we'll see you guys later on the Rays Rewind podcast. See you.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with El Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.